Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another rules breakdown. And this time I would like to go over the rules of Shadowdark, the role-playing game, or at least a quick start version of it, which has been released while the Kickstarter is running. Now, I'll link the Kickstarter below. It may be finishing round about the time this video gets released. In fact, I might actually be a bit late, but I'll put it in there anyway. And I'll put a link to download these quick start rules. Now, I've gone over the rule system before, and it's generically sort of 5th edition compatible. If you're aware of 5th edition rules, then you're probably not going to have many problems with Shadowdark. As usual, I'm going to be using a character from it, and fortunately in their pack, they do give us a bunch of sample characters. So I've chosen Uriel Lyrander, an elf fighter. And that's who I'll be using. He's no better, he's no bit worse than anybody else. He's first level like all the sample characters, but I like the cut of his jib, so I went with that. So skills are mainly dealt with on the section starting on page 40 of the player's book. In fact, all of the rules are dealt with just within the player's book. So, rolling the dice on page 40. Well, we've got advantage and disadvantage. Well, that's the same as 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. We roll 2 dice. And we choose the highest or the lowest, depending on whether we've got advantage or disadvantage. So if you've got advantage and we'd roll those dice, you'd be choosing the 19. If we've got disadvantage, then you'd be choosing the 11. You'd be choosing the lower of the 2 dice. If you have advantage and disadvantage on a roll, they cancel each other out. If you're on a natural 20, then you automatically succeed at the highest level, doing a critical hit on an attack roll. If you're on natural 1, then you fail. An attack roll automatically misses and might even strike an ally. And that's where the D6 decider comes in. You roll 1d6 to decide whether something is good or bad for the players. So if I roll 1d6, I've rolled a 5. And that means that it will generally be okay for the players. So you miss, but it's just a miss on a critical fail. But if you roll the 1 to 3 on the dice, then it's disadvantageous for the players. So you perhaps hit another player, you drop your weapon, whatever. It's a fumble and something goes wrong. Continuing through the rules, it talks about luck. When you're rolling skills, if you have a luck point, you're only allowed 1. It's very the same as inspiration in 5th edition, except instead of inspiration, which would give you advantage on a roll, this just allows you a reroll. So if you fail, you spend your luck point and you get a reroll. And here it details the attributes and how they apply to things. Because there are no skills in this game, the characters have advantages on various things, bonuses, but they don't have skills as such. So it details different things here. So your strength is used for smashing open locked doors, bending the bars of a prison gate, lifting a large rock. Your dexterity is diving away from a trap, scaling a wall, fooling onlookers with sleight of hand tricks. Constitution's holding your breath underwater, withstanding intense pain, resisting the effects of poison. Intelligence, giving first aid to a dying character, which is quite important. Recalling the path through a twisting maze, finding food and water in the wilderness. Wisdom is spotting a well-hidden enemy, determining the direction of a faint noise or smell, deciphering the sounds on the other side of a door. And charisma is performing ventriloquism, applying a disguise, rallying allies who are terrified by a monster. Carrying on through, we've got making checks, when to roll, and difficulty classes. So these are the DC numbers for something. So we're going to have our sample elf character trying to climb a wall. He's not got advantage or disadvantage on it, and it's fairly hard. So let's say it's a DC 15. So we look at his dexterity, because that's what it was for climbing. It's +1. He doesn't have anything special, so we're rolling 1d20. He rolls an 18, +1, 19, and that's over the 15 target number, so he's succeeded. So if we continue through the rules, we move on to the initiative section on page 45. It's played in turn order right from the start. At the beginning of the game, the GM establishes initiative, or the order in which the players act. Everyone rolls a d20 and adds their dex modifier. The GM adds the highest dex modifier of any monsters if relevant. The person who rolled the highest takes the first turn, and the turn order moves clockwise from that individual. So only the highest person that rolls initiative matters. Everybody else, it just continues round. So if the GM is the next person to the right, then the monsters get to go. If it's a different player, doesn't matter how fast or slow they rolled, it's just the position they are to the person who rolled the highest. So for our elf here, he's got his dexterity 1. So we're rolling 1d20. And this time we rolled a 14, plus 1, 15. So if that's the highest roll, then he's going to go first. If it's not the highest roll, then it does not matter. Now the rulebook's nicely laid out, so we've flipped back to that, and we've turned on to page 50 for combat section. Now we have the actions here, which detail melee attacks, which are 1d20 plus your strength modifier plus talent bonuses, and your ranged attack, which is 1d20 plus your dex modifier plus talent bonuses. So if we look back to our character sheet, if we're trying to hit somebody, of course we're going against their armor class. So this character has an armor class of 16. Well, how does he get that? Again, if we flick back and we go back to page 34 to have a look at armor. So the character actually has chainmail plus a shield. So he's got a chainmail, which is 13 plus his dex modifier. Well, as we remember, his dex modifier is 1, so that's 14. And shield is plus 2, so he's got 16. So we need to roll that to hit him. Now with his bastard sword, he's got a plus 4 bonus. He's getting that from plus 3 from his strength, because we remember melee attacks are strength. Plus he has this ability, weapon mastery, plus 1 on attacks and damage with bastard sword, which he's got from his class. With his longbow, it's a plus 2, because he's got plus 1 from his dex, and he has the elven ability of farsight, plus 1 on ranged attacks. So we're going to go with a bastard sword, and he's going to need a 16. So we roll 1d20. He has rolled 11. He gets his plus 4, it's 15, so he misses. And it's as simple as that. You're rolling against the enemy's armor class, and you're totaling up your bonuses and adding it to 1d20. And for damage, well, like Dungeons & Dragons, each weapon has its own damage dice. If we flip back to the player's handbook and onto page 35, we can see the different types of weapons here. Now, the elf here, Uriel, is using a bastard sword. Now, it's a versatile weapon. It has V, which means you can use it one or two-handed. One-handed, it does 1d8 damage. Two-handed, it uses 1d10 damage. So, Uriel here was using his shield, so he can only be holding it one-handed. So we're going to be rolling 1d8 for damage, and he gets a plus 1 to the damage on that from his weapon mastery, plus 1 on attacks and damage with the bastard sword. So we clear 1d8, he rolls an 8, plus 1, so he does 9 damage. Now health, much like the Dungeons & Dragons system this is based off of, is hit points. Now Uriel here has 8 hit points, so if he'd done 9 points of damage, he'd be down. But let's have a look back at the player's handbook, and back onto page 51. So, if we have done damage, we can decide to render somebody unconscious instead of dead when you reduce them to 0 hit points. So that's a choice. If you roll a 20, then you'd be rolling 2 damage dice to do far more damage, or hopefully, if you didn't roll low on one of the dice. But death here. A character who is reduced to 0 hit points falls unconscious and is dying. A character who goes above 0 hit points wakes up and is no longer dying. Death timer. A dying character rolls 1d4 plus their con modifier, minimum 1 total on their turn. They die in that many rounds unless healed or stabilized. So we have a look, and it's 1d4 plus 2. So we clear that, we roll, and we got 1. So in 3 rounds, Uriel will die unless helped. But on each of the character's subsequent turns, that player rolls a d20. On a natural 20, the character will rise with 1 hit point. So let's clear, go back to a d20, throw. First round, nope. Second round, nope. Third round, nope. So unless somebody else helped him, Uriel would die. Stabilize. An intelligent being can give a first aid to a dying creature at close range. On a successful DC 15 intelligence check, the character stops dying. So I'm guessing this can be done repeatedly. So again, Uriel, if he was treating himself, he has no bonus on intelligence. So he's trying to get a 15 on a d20. So we throw. First round, he fails. Second round, he fails. And third round, he fails. So in this sample combat, if Uriel had hit and done the 9 points of damage, he would be dying. He's failed all his death saves, and his friends, or the clone of himself, has failed to stabilize him. Death. A character who perishes is retired from the game. So it's as simple as that. Once you've gone to 0 hit points, you've got a certain number of rounds depending on a d4 plus your con bonus, where somebody can try to stabilize you, or you can stabilize yourself by rolling a 20 on a d20 each round. Also, natural healing. If we go back a couple of pages to page 48, resting. Injured characters can rest to recover from their wounds. To rest, a character must consume a ration and sleep for 8 hours. Interruption. Each stressful interruption of rest, including combat, requires an affected character to make a DC 12 Constitution deck. On a failure, character consumes a ration but gains no benefit from resting. Success. Character who successfully rests regains all lost hit points and recovers any stat damage that was not permanent. So let's say they were disturbed overnight. He has to make a con save. So his con is +2. He needs to make a DC 12. So we throw. He gets a 5, +2, 7, so he doesn't rest if that was interrupted. But otherwise, if he wasn't interrupted, he'd be healed up to maximum. And advancement. Well, we go back to page 37 for this. Experience points represent your learning, influence, and increasing skill. XP awards are based on the quality of the treasure and boons you gain. To gain a level, you need to earn your current level times 10 experience. Once you reach a new level, your total XP resets back to 0. So it's not that these are just 10 increments, they double each time. So essentially, at 30 XP, you go up to level 2. You get any new titles, spells, and talent improvement listed for your level. Your maximum HP also increases. You might gain a talent roll. So if you get 12 experience and you go up a level, the 2 is lost. So it doesn't matter if you get a large dump of massive amount of experience. You're only ever going to level up 1 level. You're not going to jump up multiple levels. And when you level, if you're going up to 1st, 3rd, 5th, etc., then you are getting to roll on your talents. So if we go back to the fighter, that's what Uriel is, the fighter talents, and we're rolling 2d6. So we throw, and he gets a 6, which is a +1 to melee and ranged attacks, which he can add to his character sheet, and he'll be gaining that bonus on all his attacks. So his +4 and +2 will now be +5 and +3. But he could have been rolling any one of these. You know, he could be choosing a type of armor and getting bonus armor class from it. He could be increasing his attributes and gaining the bonuses from that. Apart from that, he's increasing his hit points. So 1d8 per level. So again, we roll a d8. And he gains 4 hit points. So Uriel going up to the next level will be up to 12 hit points. He'll be getting his +1 bonus on there. And that's him, really. Well, actually, he's at 1st level, so at 2nd level, he wouldn't be getting anything. So that's a very brief look through Shadowdark. It's a very similar system to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Many concepts, roll and add, for example, advantage, disadvantage, even luck being very similar to inspiration, are all very familiar if you played that system. So it will be a very easy game to get people converted over to. I don't usually go over magic systems in these, but it's so simple that it's worth mentioning. Basically, you're trying to make a spellcasting test against a target number of 10 plus the spell level, or its tier, as they're called in Shadowdark. So a 1st level spell is going to be a target of 11, 2nd tier is going to be 12. And you're making that using, if you are a wizard, you're using your intelligence bonus, so d20 +0 for this character, Or if you're a cleric, you're using your wisdom. So in this character, it'd be +1. And of course, the wizards and cleric classes have talents which add to that as well, specifically for certain spells, but in general as well. So they will be able to have bonuses more to get over those target numbers and cast spells more often. Now, in the case of them fumbling, instead of dropping their sword or whatever, there's restrictions on them where the wizard spells backfire and they roll on a random table to see what the effect is. They also are blocked from casting that particular spell again until they've had a rest. In the case of clerics, they're blocked from casting that spell again, but they have to pay a penance to their god as well as resting, usually sacrificing some money or like to pay penance to their god and regain access to that spell because they have displeased their god. But anyway, I've wittered on for quite long enough as usual. So thank you very, very much for watching. But most of all, as always, you look after yourselves and I'll catch you later. Bye now.